Well, I mean, it was fascinating. So I was headed up to Alberta a couple of months ago before all this coronavirus, and I was going to the cattle producers, but I wanted to know what are the other issues that were going on. And at the time, there was this big protest around oil pipelines, and everywhere I looked, if I tried to watch the news, I could only get 1.5-minute clips at the most, and it was an intro and an outro. So it was about like 45 seconds of this is one person's perspective and another person's perspective, and now we're out. And it wasn't until I came across your videos as I was doing like actual research to get ready to go give this talk that I was like, wow, look at this pipeline issue. No one in the United States knows this is going on. And this guy did it in how long was your oil video? How did that all come about too?
So the Coastal GasLink one, I want to say was somewhere in the 10-minute mark. That's kind of the thing. A lot of this stuff, it's in and out kind of thing. Because I do productions once a week kind of thing is how it's been going. But I think it was somewhere around the 10-minute mark. And usually, like for Quick Dick to go longer than 5 minutes on a video, like off the start, was monumental. And now a lot of this stuff is getting into the 7 to 10 minute kind of time frame there. But it was just that was very intriguing to me for the simple reason that the area it was happening in is the Ground Birch area, which is actually it's kind of in northeastern BC, and the Peace Country is the area that it's called. And I was involved in oil and gas exploration up there, specifically more tailored to the natural gas side than oil. But this is a huge project that a lot of oil companies had invested a large amount of money in the Ground Birch area in anticipation of this Coastal GasLink pipeline. A lot of the oil and gas exploration up in that neck of the woods was originally invested in heavily because the ultimate goal was to liquefy natural gas on the BC coast and the Kitimat area, and then export to Asian markets, right? So you get a large, like a huge amount of investments happening up in the Peace Country area, right up into the Fort Nelson area and some stuff. And we worked years and years and years on some very big projects up there that were all in anticipation of this happening. And then, it's very frustrating to see what was happening because all of a sudden you see this pipeline slated, ready to be built. Plans finally go through, and this is actually going to start happening and putting shovels to dirt in Kitimat to get a liquid natural gas refinery going in. All of a sudden, it just blows up that we're not running a pipeline now. All of a sudden, we got protesters all over the place, and it goes Canada wide, and you're like, not that it doesn't affect me anymore, because it affects us all as Canadians, because I mean this is a huge part of what drives our national economy, right? And then you see this stuff start happening, and I was like, there are so many people that don't understand how much work has gone into this and how many communities are depending on this to happen to continue being communities. And all of a sudden it's a nationwide thing where everything's just grinding to a halt, and we've got people out in Ontario and Eastern Canada protesting something that's happening in northeastern BC. It was disturbing, to say the least.
Well, it was fascinating to watch from the US because you guys were having people stand in front of trains and block off entire transportation networks, and I was describing this to US audiences. And here, that's an act of war, right? Like to stop transportation. So for me, I was like having my mind blown. There are people that have shut down your trains in Canada, and nobody in the US knows about it. And when you go to look at what's going on in Canada, it seemed like it was like the great land of peace and everybody getting along was melting down.
That's basically how it was going. Who stands in front of a train and is like, hey, you're not going?
Yeah, only a person that 100% believes that somebody else is going to protect them.
Yeah, I think that's essentially where things were at. And I mean, I guess I won't dive too deep into my beliefs on what happened, but what was happening, it was illegal, and it was allowed to continue to happen, which caused quite a bit of distress among Canadians with what was happening.
When you put that video out, how big did it get? Because I saw it multiple times. It was all over the place.
Yeah, so a lot of the political ones seem to go pretty big for some reason. But that one, I think it got over 100,000 views fairly quickly, and I guess by my standards, that's a lot of views. But it's yeah, it got traction really quick. But I think it's for the reason that when you identify like specific communities, and you can be a person that people that are in the middle of what's happening. So let's use the Peace Country in northern BC specifically. I know it very well. I mean, I spent years working in it, and I know it very well. I know all the little communities. And one thing I was like, when I was doing the video, I was like, okay, I think I can try and identify with some people in that area that are being directly affected. I mean, all of us as Canadians were being indirectly affected by this, whether we knew it or not at the time, and still are being affected by it. But specifically those communities that if you have investors looking at something like this happening, and they're going to start shutting all this stuff down, investors are going to be like, you know what, we're not in. If this is how you guys are going to handle yourselves and you can't make this happen, we're out of here. Can you imagine being a community that the being of your community is now depending on this going through, and the industry that it's going to bring, and the revenue it's going to bring to your community, and it's just the RCMP are going to stand aside, not do anything about it, and just let everything happen, let alone a nation get behind it. I feel there's protests going on in Toronto and a bunch of other places of people that had absolutely nothing to do with what was happening with the wet sweat and the Coastal GasLink pipeline happening. There was I don't know if you saw any of it, but there was one interview where there's some reporters going around in Toronto asking the protesters that were there protesting this pipeline in Toronto, so do you know what's going through the pipeline? And they're like, yeah, it's oil going through the pipeline. It's natural gas going through the pipeline, their partner. Like,
but people don't know. They don't know the difference.
Crazy thing about it.
Yeah.
Grab our signs. There's a protest going on. Let's go protest what we're protesting. Well, what are you protesting? I don't know, but let's go protest it. What? Like, that happens. You see, and that's not just something that happens in Canada now. You're starting to see a lot of this stuff happen worldwide, where it's just like well, let's just go protest, because protesting seems to be a cool thing to do.
Yeah, it appears to me that protesting is the result of, in one case, it could be, hey, I don't have any other way to stand up against this big giant monster, and so this is the only way I can draw attention to it. But a lot of other people are drawn to it because they don't have forward progress in their life. They aren't moving forward in their job. They don't have like necessarily their family things that they're moving forward. So to them, demanding that somebody else makes change is the closest thing to progress. And when you get a whole lot of people that are thinking that way, you start having people say, well, the biggest thing that I can do for the world is demand that other people do things. And it gets your society out of whack in a hurry.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's maybe like it's maybe a tactic that some people use for self-satisfaction kind of thing, or whatever, make them feel like, okay, well, I'm making a change. I can't make a change in my life, so I'm making a change by doing this kind of thing. And it's kind of a scary thing, right? And not that I guess I'm not the biggest fan of protesters. I've never, I've been on planet Earth for 37 years, and I haven't found a situation so far where I need to go protest, but I have had situations in which I need to go talk to people and talk reason and have a motive behind what I'm bringing to their attention, kind of thing. And you can usually like make pretty good progress with that if you have facts behind what you're doing, and you're willing to have a conversation with somebody, and you're willing to have an open mind and hear their side of the story as well. That's kind of how you resolve problems in the world, except nobody seems to want to do that anymore. Everyone's got my opinion, I'm going with it, and nobody else talk to me about it. And a lot of people will see a quick Dick video, and I get lots of backlash sometimes when people be like, "Yeah, do straw man much kind of thing," because Quick Dick's basically just spouting his opinion out to the world, kind of thing. Hopefully in a little bit of a funny way, and people will be like, "Well, it's real easy to debate nobody on the other end of your video," kind of thing. Well, the video is not really a debate. It's just a lot of the times you'll hear Quick Dick say at the start of it, it's his toonie, it's his opinion, and everybody's got an opinion. And I think the purpose of it is just to try in a funny way, maybe kind of bring some of the topics that some of the people protesting some of the stuff or believe against, just some of those little issues that maybe they don't realize what's happening with it, right? And try and paint a little bit of maybe some humor on top of that, and people get a little more receptive to it sometimes, right? So